Welcome tonight to our Belong Youth Conference webinar. I am Clare Dalton, pronouns she, her, and I am the Vice President of Belong. It was amazing to meet so many parents and youth at Belong Utah last summer. It was the highlight of our summer, those of us who organized it, and just being able to meet parents and youth was incredible. And we're so excited to meet many more of you in the future and to share our vision. And I would say, just to condense it down, our vision for Belong is helping to create a future where every youth gets to grow up in a safe space, in safe spaces, and experience who they are without judgment. So that's kind of the baseline of what we're hoping to do in Belong, as our name sounds. Or our name says. So we are gearing up for Belong Arizona here in the Phoenix Valley. We're super excited about it. It's going to be March 20th through 22nd. Ticket sales are in full swing, so if you haven't signed up, you're thinking about it, hopefully we can answer some of your questions tonight so you'll feel comfortable signing up. And we're also excited and planning for, and already in the beginning stages, well, I'd probably say middle stages of getting ready for Belong Utah, which will be, again, in Utah this summer. June 25th through 27th are the dates. Ticket sales are open, and we will be at a new venue that we are super excited about and we'll tell a lot about, but we're not going to focus on that one here, even though I'm very excited about it. We are going to focus on our special guest tonight. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our special guest for the evening. This is Terri Pratt, she, her. And Terri is a therapist at Neurodiverse Counseling. She has a master's degree in counseling and a lot of life experience because she is the mother of queer and neurodiverse children. And Terri is just a huge advocate for building meaningful and healthy relationships in families and communities and safe spaces for everyone. So Terri's going to elaborate some more on that. I'm going to turn the time over to her in just a second, and she's going to share some of her thoughts with her, and then we're going to have, it'll come back, and we'll have a question and answer together. So if you have a question that pops up while Terri's speaking, or one that you came prepared with, or multiple questions, we'd love that. Please put them into that chat box. I'll monitor those questions as we go, and then at the end, we will answer all of those questions and see if there's any more that you have. So we are so excited to have you here, and we're so excited to hear from Terri. So Terri, the time is yours.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I know that it takes energy, courage, all the things to show up to a conversation like this. And most parents I talk with are carrying the same question, which is, what if I get this wrong? So it's not because they don't care, but because they care so much. And I am guessing that that is the space that most of you are in as well. So being the parent of an LGBTQ teen in 2026, it asks a lot of you. And so you may be sorting through information and opinions, faith, school culture, mental health, social media, and what's happening with your child's heart all at the same time. And even the most supportive parents can feel unsure about which spaces feel truly safe. So many of you have seen how confusing it can be. So programs that look affirming on the outside, but feel different on the inside, faith messages that start gentle, but end up shaming, adults who mean well, but don't really understand what LGBTQ or neurodivergent kids may carry. So the worry you feel isn't overreacting. It's protective love doing its job. So I just first, want to commend you all for being here to join in this conversation. So tonight, it's not about turning you into perfect experts. That doesn't exist. So it's about helping you become confident question askers. So parents who know how to look beyond the rainbow logos and good marketing to figure out who will actually be with my child, how will their identity and, if relevant, their faith be treated, and what happens when my kid is anxious, overwhelmed, or struggling. So we want to normalize imperfection. And so in this way, it's like knowing that you have imperfections in yourself, we want to normalize, as well as in others. and saying you are allowed to be learning while also loving your child, right? Because we're all learning. And just because we're learning doesn't mean we don't love. So normalize your own imperfections, that you're not going to get it right all the time. And mistakes are often how we do learn, how we learn to do better. So getting something wrong doesn't make you unsafe. Refusing to listen, refusing to repair, that's what harms relationships. But being here tonight tells me that you're already choosing the better path. So tonight I'm going to share a few practical tools, but mostly I want this to be your space. No question is too basic. No worry is too messy. If you're thinking it, most likely another parent is probably thinking it too. So let's just start with whatever is on your heart. What are you thinking? What kinds of things do you want to know? Whether it's related to belong or just related to creating safe spaces in general. So does anybody have any questions that they want to start with?
We did have some questions that have come through just across our social medias and different things. So we can start with one of those while people are figuring out their questions are starting. So one question that I really liked the way that this parent worded it, they asked, and hold on, I'm pulling it up on here so I have it. So what does it look like? Like, what does it actually look like to create a safe space? And they did quotes, so safe space for LGBTQ youth. And then I love that they said this part, what practical steps can I take at home starting tonight?
What a great question. Yeah, so what does it look like to create safe spaces? Often, what does it mean to have a safe space? A safe space is where somebody feels they can come and be totally themselves, where they don't have to mask, where they don't have to act or be something that they're not. It's where they can show up authentically. And so often you might have kids that maybe it's that they want to be able to dress differently in a safe space than they would in a not safe space. It might be that they feel comfortable saying, hey, these are my pronouns, can you use them? Or this is my chosen name, can you use that? And it might be, hey, social environments, even if it's in somebody else's home, it brings up a lot of anxiety. It might be, is there somewhere that I can go if I'm feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated? And so first, recognizing what a safe space means is the first step to creating one, right? And so then once you know what might some of those factors be, then it might be when kids are in your home or when you're out and about. Maybe it's you have a queer kid yourself and they have friends that come over, or some of your child's friends are queer. It might be first welcoming them and just being like, thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see you. Tell me what you would like me to call you and what pronouns you'd like to use. And then maybe you introduce, or maybe you first introduce yourself. Hey, my name's Terry and my pronouns are she, her. What would you like me to call you and what are your pronouns? So sometimes just modeling that behavior first, asking for a chosen name and pronouns is the first glaring sign that this is a safe space. And I think that first step is going to get you really far. And then it might be following up with asking questions. Hey, what would make you feel most comfortable? Is there something that I should know about you so that I can make sure my home or this space feels safe to you?
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. And just like a quick example of just one today. So we went out to breakfast brunch with some friends today, and it was a restaurant. So it was a wonderful, awesome restaurant. And part of their decoration were these, I think they were like snowflakes or jacks, like that kind of thing on the walls. And they're in silver all over this inside of the restaurant. And one of them was the inclusive LGBTQ flag. So that was something that they had decided as a business just to put up. And I think a lot of people go, why do we need to wear pins? Why do we need to put flags up everywhere? Why the rainbow? That could be an indicator for people that this is a safe space, right? You're okay here. We're okay in this space. If someone is willing or comfortable having a flag up, it can signal to someone else that we're okay having those discussions here, or we're okay with you saying, this is my chosen name, these are my pronouns, that it's not going to take us by surprise, that we're thinking about it, it's on our radar, and that we want you to feel safe here. So that was just one, just, as an LGBTQ person myself, this restaurant, it was a great restaurant. I was enjoying the food. It was wonderful. But seeing that, I had this experience, I'm okay here. If someone says something about me, or if I say something about myself, I don't have to check and go, am I okay? Is someone going to be taken by surprise that I mentioned being gay, or that I mentioned my wife as a woman, or anything like that? Like those little cues, I don't have to be defenses up, worried and sensing about what's going on around me. I can just be me. So it's things I don't have to think about. So
Love that.
I love what you said, Terry. And what the other thing that I was just going to add to that is that I know that as adults and parents, when we're worried about our loved ones, we really stress about, am I doing this right? Did I do it okay? What does that look like? How do I do it? And just being you is step number one, right? You, like Terry said, being comfortable with who you are is step number one. And people can feel that. Like, we understand when people are comfortable in their skin and who they are and are accepting of others. It's just an energy or a vibe that we can tell, and you can tell very quickly on those. So I love that. We've got another question in the chat, Terry, and it says, who is responsible for making a space safe? How can I be a part of that process? And then let's start that, and then there's a second part to that question. But who's responsible for that?
I think we all are. We're all responsible. Not one person is responsible. So if you are a human being, you are responsible for creating safe spaces. And I think it's really important that we don't just sit back and go, well, somebody else can do that. Find whatever it is. Maybe it's pushing you out of your comfort zone, or maybe you try to go to the edge of what is your comfort zone. But always be thinking, what can I do to make the space safe, even if it's raising the question of, hey, asking whoever's space it is or who's ever is in charge, ask it if it is a safe place. And that in and of itself is the first step to making it a safe place. So how can you be part of that process? Well, that's one thing. Maybe it's also, maybe that your child or you are going with queer people to a restaurant or to a coffee shop or to a game shop or whatever. You can call ahead and say, or to an event and say, hey, I am coming, or my friends are coming with me and they belong to the queer community. Is this a safe space for them? Ask the question. And if they say, well, yeah, it's safe, and just say, what will they see when they arrive that will indicate that it is a safe space? Because what you're doing by asking questions is that you're making a shop owner or an event planner or whoever that is, you're making them think, wow, what is around that's making this a safe place? And you will also know if they're like, yeah, we don't really do that, or we don't worry about things like that maybe you should question if it's a safe space or not. Or you could say, well, is it something that you would be willing to honor? Would you be willing to show that you're a safe place? And if the store says no, well, then you know that maybe that's not a place that you could go, or your friends could go to authentically, your child could go to authentically and feel comfortable. And then maybe you find other places that are. But first of all, ask the question.
I love that. And the second part to that question is, what if it's a space where I feel like I can't control it, or I don't control, like an event or a church or a school, that maybe there have been some events that have been negative that have happened there before, and it's not a space that I feel like I can control?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's true, there's only so much control you have. Even a shop or an event or a church that may want to be very affirming, they can't control all of the other patrons or participants who are there. But by making it known that they are an accepting space, I think that that's the first part. But that's where you may have to sit down with your child. If this is a space that you're interested in your child going in, and maybe it's a church or or school or something, and start conversations with your child about what do I do if this space becomes unsafe while I'm in it. And
Mm,
that's a really important question so that they have an exit strategy if it becomes unsafe. Because
yeah,
that there is never a 100% guarantee that any space is going to be safe when you don't know who all is going to be in that space.
yeah.
So having an exit strategy is an important part.
I love that. And I also think this is a good time or a place to point out that um, even as we are doing all that we can to make it a safe space, and I know that I'm not a parent, but I have heard, and other parents and my own parents have said, we did the best that we could. Here's all the things that we did to create what they thought was a safe space, and maybe it still doesn't feel safe for a youth or for someone. Like, you can't control how somebody feels. You may be doing everything you can, and your kid might still say, I don't feel safe there. And so that's just a reality that can happen, and it's not always a problem to fix. Sometimes, and Terri, you can jump in on this too, but I think sometimes a part of that can just be that kid is sensing something and
Yeah,
maybe they don't know how to voice it yet, and maybe that's a great start to a future conversation, right? Like,
absolutely.
what is it about that place that you are feeling that way, or what has happened in the past can open up doors that maybe the youth doesn't really have a vocabulary for yet,
Yeah,
but striving to describe it can lead to really great conversations and places. So I think that that's important to plan for and to just think about that. If your kid says, this place, I don't feel safe there, and you have done everything you can to make it safe, maybe what that kid is saying is, I don't want to go or be there right now. So how can we let that be heard and that be honored? Sometimes that's what we really need, is people to say, I see you, I hear you, let me go out of my way to create a different path, or let's not go there this week, or whatever that might look like. I don't know, Terri, does that make
yeah,
sense?
that rings true. And I think just the question, and maybe they don't know yet, but still start asking the question, what about the space feels unsafe? What
Mm.
about this situation felt unsafe to you? Was it something that somebody said? Did somebody look at you? And again, like you said, it may not be that we are going to fix those things, but we can process them with our child so that they know how to react. Maybe it's, wow, they looked at me weird and suddenly I felt like I need to shrink, right? And
Mhm.
so then it might be a conversation like, okay, how can you respond in a way that feels authentic and like you're proud of yourself? What can you say to yourself in those moments so that somebody can't take safety away from you because they look at you weird or because they may not agree with the way you're portraying yourself? Because helping a child understand that that says nothing about you, it says everything about the person. So how can I still stand in my truth and in my authenticity and not allow the thoughts or feelings that other people are projecting onto me control how I feel about myself?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I like that. And it makes me think of, and this is a really real situation that I've had talking with youth and with parents about. Sometimes as a youth is in the coming out process, especially if they're trans or non-binary or figuring that out, sometimes as they're trying out new names or trying out pronouns, they may not feel comfortable trying those outside of the home or in certain settings. And so maybe as a parent or just as an ally, we're so excited and love this kid so much that we want to, like, yes, let's make sure everyone knows your new name and your pronouns, and like we want to run for it. And sometimes the youth says, I just want that to stay, in this really small circle. And maybe that circle doesn't move at the pace that we want it to or that we think it should. And I think that there's some beauty in that of how we can as adults show our kids and youth that it's a safe space by honoring their boundaries with where they're at and moving at their pace is really
Wonderful.
difficult. It's a very difficult dance to do, but I know just from personal experience when people are willing to honor my boundaries, that speaks so loudly to me. It's so loud when someone says, maybe I feel differently or I'm a different spot, but you said you're here, so until you tell me something different, that's how I'm going to act and behave, can be
Yeah.
so safe in this
Yeah.
process.
I love that so much, Claire, because it's true. The coming out process can look different for every individual, and we allow them to take the lead. So if it means, hey, if you have a child that comes out, it might be, and there are stages of coming out, right? That's one of the things we talk about at Belong is we
Definitely
have a
habits.
whole class on the stages of coming out. And it might be a short process for some, and it might be a really long process for others. I know kids that they may come out. I'll give you one example. A child that came out to their parents as transgender, and it took well over a year before they even finally said, "Hey, could you use these pronouns?" Right? A whole year of coming out as trans. And then it was again a slow process for, okay, I think I would like to try maybe some opposite gender clothing or my chosen gender clothing, and then slowly letting other people know, and that could be a years long process, and we have to honor their pace and let them take the lead. And that's so important that they get to come out and that they can control that narrative. Um, so yeah, so
And
important.
that's a big part of creating a safe space in a
Yes.
relationship, right? I will trust that person who I say this is my boundary and I see them holding it even if it's not comfortable for them. That's a huge green flag for me that this person is giving me their best effort and safe. And so I naturally will gravitate towards and share more with that person because I see that effort and it's going at my pace. And so I think that's huge, from
Yes.
my experience and from what I've heard. So I love that. We had another question that is kind of on that same line, so we'll just go with it now. Of what if a space is okay physically? Physically, I'm safe, but emotionally, I'm not. Would you add anything to that conversation, Terry?
I think again, it's really just what we've already answered is kind of figuring out why it feels unsafe emotionally, and then processing through that and finding ways where either we build confidence in the individual with their own identity, or we figure out what is unsafe emotionally about that, and then address that, whether by staying in the space or removing from the space.
I always love being a moderator or like on some sort of side of a support group because it's so fascinating to me that whenever we have these conversations, Terry, with anybody, I'm like, ooh, I need to do that for me. Like, I'm not a youth anymore, but all of these things, I'm like, oh,
Applies at all ages, right?
I need to address that in this space or in this relationship. I'm not feeling safe. Have I actually taken the time to address what I'm feeling and to name it? And I'm like, wow. So, anyways, I was just having that moment of like one popped into my head and I went, ah, I see. I should go
Ah,
think about
let me
that.
think about why I'm feeling unsafe and what I need to do about that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Let's see. Another question that we have is what if my kid is telling their therapist that they don't feel safe, but they won't tell me that as the parent? Is that just venting? How can I help them feel safe enough to tell me?
Oh, what a great question. And first of all, I think honoring that they have a relationship with a therapist, and that the therapist may hear a lot more than you as a parent does. I think first of all, you honor the relationship that the child has with the therapist, and be grateful that they're telling somebody. Okay, even if it's not you. And then you do everything that you can to create a safe space. If it's you that they're not feeling safe with, then that's a time to really look inward, right? This isn't where you look out and go, well, what are they doing? Or they're hurting my feelings when I'm trying so hard. Like, don't get offended, because when you're offended, you are not looking for ways that you can change. And if we look inward really genuinely, because we want our children to feel safe with us, we will find things that we can do better. Okay. We might be doing a lot of things right, but we're never, none of us, doing it all right. And so use it as a beautiful opportunity to look inward and to do even better. And that might be at some point having a conversation with your kid and go, you know what, I've been thinking a lot lately about safe spaces. And one of my goals is to make sure I am a safe person for you and your people, and that our home is a safe place for you and your friends and your people. And I recognize that there may be some things that I'm doing unintentionally that make it feel unsafe. Is there anything you could share with me that I could do better? When you approach your child in a way that they feel like it is really genuine, that you're not going to say something to them and it's going to come back and bite them, because then when they tell you the truth and then you get defensive and say all the reasons of how you're already doing that, they will never come back to you and trust you in those instances. So you need to know, if you're asking them that question, you better be ready for the answer, and you better be ready to validate them, even if you don't agree with them. Do not tell them you don't agree with them. You 100% validate them, and you do your processing of that information, even if it's hurtful to do, away from them. And then you process it and you find every way you can to believe them, and then change what it is you feel like you're doing. Yeah. And then maybe you say, hey, I really want to get it right, but I'm having a lot of trouble understanding because I actually thought I was doing it right in this instant. Can you teach me? So if you approach your child with curiosity and with teachability, you're going to get a lot farther than if you approach them with defensiveness or telling them why you're right and they're not. They may not tell you the first time you ask for safe spaces. Yeah. Then start showing them. Start putting up a rainbow flag. Start asking their friends what their pronouns are. Start asking questions to make the space safer, all on your own. Start researching on your own. When they see that you are making efforts on your own to make safe spaces, then they may be willing to open up and share with you what more you can do.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that it looks different for everyone. Like some people might not be comfortable putting up a rainbow flag in their house for a variety of reasons. So I was just thinking like an example, because I feel like that's usually like a go-to, and there's a lot of feelings there and there's a lot of history and experiences. And another example that I thought of that is actually a personal one is I had friends who I'm sure were trying to connect with me and didn't quite know how when I was coming out. And I'm just thinking of one in particular that we mostly communicated on Instagram, sending like funny reels, right? And stuff like that. And so they sent me a couple that showed me they were looking into some of the things that we had shared. Like they were trying to look into the topics, and they just said, hey, I found this, this 30-second clip. Does this resonate with you? Or is this how you feel or felt growing up? Was so helpful for me to just know that, like you said, right, they were doing some processing on their end, and that was how they were expressing it. And maybe we didn't have like super deep conversations, but I knew that they were a safe place if I needed it. And then just kind of a converse example real quick, when I was coming out and coming out to family members, there were a couple family members who this isn't against them, this is just kind of where we were at the time, their knee-jerk response to me coming out was, why didn't you tell me sooner? And that one always like just twisted the knife a little bit for me, because there's just a lot of history with all our relationships with people and our relationships in families, that some are conscious and some are unconscious and some are intentional and others aren't. And there was also a family member who wanted to know, well, who else have you told? And I was like, the ordering doesn't matter. I'm in a big family. There's a lot of conversations, but why are you worried about how high up you are and who told me and when? Like, what does that do for you? And have you thought about what that does for me and how that feels? And so just kind of some things to just ponder and chew on. If that's your knee-jerk reaction, I would say swallow it in that moment. That's not a conversation to have with that person then, or maybe ever. Maybe that's more information for you. Why is it so important to me that I feel like I should have known sooner. What is that masking? I feel like that feeling is masking something deeper, that maybe there's some personal work I could do there.
Well, and I think too that what that's doing is it's making it about you and not the person who
Yeah.
came out to you. And they're sharing something really deep and personal and vulnerable about themselves. And if you make it about you in that moment, like, why didn't you tell me sooner? Then that you're going about it all wrong. So make sure that in a conversation like that, you're keeping the focus on where it started. And that's when you get curious. You thank them for trusting you, for sharing something with you. And then get curious about, tell me more about your experience. I want to understand you and what you've been through. Can you share more?
Yeah, I love that. And I think this leads into one of our other questions that we got kind of behind the scenes online. And this is actually a really popular question. I've heard this one a lot. Almost anytime I talk with parents or present, someone asks this question in some sort of way. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Terri. And the question is, I'm worried I'm going to say that or do the wrong thing. What if I mess up?
Uh-huh.
And I think the first answer, and you'll probably agree with me, maybe you won't, but I would say you're going to mess up. It's going to happen. And then what? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Gotcha.
So I think the most important thing that we need to understand is repair matters more than perfection.
Say
So
that again. Say it one more time.
yes, repair matters more than perfection. So repair is huge in any relationship. It's not about never making a mistake. It's what you do when you do make a mistake. And sometimes repair has the potential to strengthen a relationship more than never making the mistake has. Repair is more powerful.
Yeah.
So when you make a mistake, because you will, focus on how you're repairing. And that means you take ownership of what you said or what you did. You apologize. You listen to them and how it affected them. And you make sure that they know that you love them. It's saying something like, I'm learning, and you matter more to me than me getting this right. That goes a long way, just to let them know they matter more than you do, right? In this case, that what you said, they matter more than what was said. Sorry, I'm jumping over my words, but
Got it.
so knowing that kids measure safety by a few things, and that includes curiosity and humility. That's how children measure safety, not by flawless vocabulary, not by never making mistakes. So remember, curiosity and humility. Own it. When you screw up, own it, right? It's so powerful when we own our mistakes. And our kids, that can go so far with our kids.
Yeah. My youngest brother Caleb is a really good example of this to me, and it chokes me up because he just models it so well naturally. He's done such a good job, but he is a dad of three, and for a long time he just had two girls, so he's a girl dad, and he really wanted to parent them gently and to just do that. And so I just remember one time we were playing, and one of them behaved a way that they probably shouldn't have. And I just remember my brother asking, going, are you feeling some big feelings right now? Can you tell me what they are? And I was sitting on the couch like, you can ask children that? And she did such a beautiful job. She's 4 years old, and she was trying to explain her big feelings. And my brother said, it's totally okay to feel that way. Next time we feel that way, maybe we do this instead of hitting your sister or whatever it was. And I was just absolutely like, oh my, I need that. I need to parent like that.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful seeing it being taught to a 4-year-old.
And they were, and that 4-year-old responded. And then another thing that he told me is he just says one of his great joys of being a dad is apologizing to his kids when he gets it wrong, sitting them down and saying exactly what you had just said, Terri, of, hey, I'm learning. This is my first time being a dad of a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, and I did this wrong today, and I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And watching that interaction absolutely, I was crying in the corner quietly just as an aunt, like, like seeing that interaction was so healing because he really focused on the repairing. And so seeing it in action is really changing. If it can be really scary if you've never done that, if you've never been on either side of that conversation before, it's really full of a lot of fear and a lot of unknown because you haven't been through it. And so trying it out of saying, I'm sorry, I'm getting this wrong and I'm going to try and get it right. Can you give me one thing to work on? And I will do everything in my power to work on that one thing, is so beautiful in creating that soft landing space in a relationship where you can continue to repair down the road. Is just absolutely, like you said, it's emotional intelligence. It's so important.
So important.
I love those. Okay, I think we're on to this other question. Let me see. Um, in the chat we have, I know I struggle to figure out how to balance encouraging my child to grow with making sure that they feel safe to be out there growing. How do I balance helping them feel safe with the reality that in order to make it, they're going to need to grow?
Ooh, what a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because growth is not comfortable, right? For any of us, if we have to get, if we're trying to expand our window of tolerance, that's uncomfortable. And so the growth requires discomfort. And so what we want to do is make sure that as we're doing that, we're knowing how to check in with ourselves and teaching our kids how to check in with their nervous system, right? So we want to make sure that we are regulated. So part of that is felt safety. Okay. So then when we step out and we're starting to feel uncomfortable and our nervous system is starting to go, I'm not so sure about this, wanting to retreat, it's teaching them to sit with that feeling and ask themselves questions. Okay, why am I feeling uncomfortable? Is it because I am emotionally or physically unsafe? Or is it because I'm uncomfortable because it's something new? Right? And so really helping our children to know how to ask themselves that question and find those answers will then help them to work through that. If they realize, okay, I'm just really uncomfortable for this is new because this is new. That's when you say, okay, what do I need to do to regulate my nervous system right now so that I can take another step forward? And that might mean, okay, maybe I need to do some box breathing, or maybe I need to do a slow meditation, or maybe I need to have some mantras to say to myself as, building myself up, reminding myself, you're okay, you're safe, you're just uncomfortable, but you can do this, right? So recognizing the difference between physical or emotional danger, where you truly are unsafe, or is this just discomfort and this is an opportunity to grow?
And just like with everything we've talked about, right? It's easier to explain it to someone else if you understand it for you and you're experiencing and working it through. That will help also. Like, I find it so hard to try and explain something if I don't actually understand the concept or I haven't practiced it myself. So that's a trigger for me to think of, like, can I tell the difference between what's the discomfort from something new versus unsafe? And so the thing that I thought of while you were talking, Terri, and I think that any parent could personalize this, or in any relationship, is especially if it is with a child, can you think of a time when they were doing something new and were uncomfortable with it, and now it's something that they love and are comfortable with? Can we maybe point that out to the past of what did that feel like, how much you love it now? And then maybe use that as kind of a litmus test for them to be able to go, oh yeah, that was really scary the first time I tried rollerblading, and now I love it and I do it all the time. Okay, I remember what that felt like and how to work through that. Am I feeling something similar? Is this going to be a new exciting activity that I love, or is it something else? I think can be a really good place to start with that comparison.
Absolutely. Really great example. I love that.
Wonderful. Okay. I think we've got one more question, if that's all right, Terri, and I think we're ready to wrap it up tonight. But this question, I'm very curious to hear on this one for you is, our parent was asking, are LGBTQ youth really at a higher risk In what ways are they at higher risk if that statistic is true? And then why is that so that LGBTQ youth are higher risk? And what does that mean?
Oh, yes. The short answer is yes, they absolutely are at a greater risk. So studies show higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide attempts among LGBTQ youth. And this is largely due to rejection, bullying, isolation, not because of their identity itself, which, people may think, well, yeah, of course, if you're gay, that's why you're depressed or that's why you're anxious because it's wrong. And no, that's not true. It's not because of the identity itself. It's because of what they're dealing with emotionally, rejection, bullying, isolation. So the most powerful protective factor for an LGBTQ youth is even one affirming adult. So parents have incredible ability to change outcomes for our youth in them feeling anxious, in them feeling depressed, in them feeling suicidal. Having a parent, even just one adult who is affirming and safe can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that same I think this is a general parent feeling of worrying about your kid out in the world, right? Is my kid going to be safe? Do they have all the tools? And if somehow they're unsafe in any situation, or if they're not growing up to be an Olympian or something amazing, a pop star, then somehow a parent didn't do everything that they could, or they're not doing it right, or they're not perfect. And I think that that holds true in the big scope, and also very narrowly in this LGBTQ realm, that it's hard. It's hard to be LGBTQ in our world with how people treat us. And your kid is going to experience hard things. Like, you can't shelter them, like none of us can, for our loved ones, for ourselves, for our friends. We can't move in a healthy way through this life and be able to do that. So instead of how can we stop it all, how can we help our children have the tools that they're going to need to move through that? How can we teach them and model resilience when we go through that ourselves? How can we help them experience things that they've gone through, and be able to look back and to reflect, to move through the world in that way? And so I think that that is what that one affirming adult can do for us, is knowing that I can go and share how I'm feeling, or what life is like for one person. If I can do that, then that is going to be that positive feedback for that person to move through life on their own. Because we're all, ultimately, we have to live our own lives, right? We can't live it for anyone else. We can't change the stakes in that way, even though we try. There's lots of people who spend their entire life trying to fix the world for someone else or for themselves, and it's just not possible. But people feel confident in being able to move through their life if they have that, at least that one positive feedback source, that one person who can look them in the eye and, backed up by all the things that they've done in their life, say, I see you, I love you, I trust that you are the best person to be walking this path for you, and I'm going to cheer you on, whatever that path looks like. It does wonders for all of us.
Absolutely. Love that.
Wonderful. Okay, any closing thoughts or things that you want to say? Or I'm going to check the chat one more time and make sure we've got it there.
I just think that all the parents who have come tonight, thank you. All the parents who listen later on, thank you, because you're the parents that want to make a difference. And it's not, I know, because I'm a parent, you're not just making a difference for your child. You're making a difference for all of their friends, for all of their friends' friends, and you're modeling for their friends' parents and other people. People are watching you to see how you do it. And is imperfectly as we all do it, we're trying, and that effort is so meaningful. So thank you for being part of the village that our kids and the rest of the queer kids in the world need.
Yeah, absolutely. Echo that 100%. And thank you so much, Terri. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise. and your experiences with us tonight. I always love having a conversation with you.
Me
We
too.
usually like to have them not recorded, but that's fine as well. We'll deal with it. If you have further questions for us, for me, or for Terri, or for Belong, I'm just gonna point you to our website. Our website has the contacts, and we have the general email, which is info at belongyouthconference.org. If you'd like to reach out to me, it's my first name, Claire. It's not the typical way you spell Claire, so it's CLARE at belongyouthconference.org. And then Terri is TERRI, same thing, at belongyouthconference.org. Or you can, if you reach out on the website and direct it towards one of us, or specifically for us, it'll get there. We'll all get there. We'll be sending out a follow-up email in our newsletter that goes out, and it'll have the link for this. So in case you missed the part, you want to share it with someone, or you know someone who would have loved to hear this but couldn't make it, or you want to re-listen to something, absolutely, we would love that. So that will go out. So look for that email coming. And then, as always, we are just so truly grateful for our founding donors, those who have believed in us, believed in Belong, helped us through this. So thank you so much for those, and for all those who make these conferences possible. And then also the parents, youth, the allies, and everyone out there who shows up every day, and just the help that you do in letting at least one person know that they have somewhere that they belong. We really appreciate that. We love you. Thank you so much. From every corner of our hearts, thank you. And we hope you have a good night. So we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Good night.